I'm Margaret N. Windsor, and I'm just going to give you a little background and finish what I was saying on the tape I've just put up video. This is Larry Flint, who helped me in a campaign when Dr. Congressman Larry McDonald's plane went down August 31st of 83, or the passenger plane he was on. I had written about him in a book called MD, A License to Kill. Mr. Flint was shot while I was doing the book, and he was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And I can remember, I'm not for pornography, but when you get into what's been allowed to happen to me in the medical profession, but in Dr. Robichaud, a beautiful man who wrote many books and were by publishers that were of the best or well known. His last book, I know it was by a different publisher, a good one, but The Power of Psychiatry. He was a friend, and he was, even though I never met him, he put in The Power of Psychiatry in the last chapter, he wrote about me. He did not mention me, but indirectly he did. And he put the 10 cases that I just name them and a little bit about them, brief, if you can still find that book. He was murdered. I told about Center for Disease Control. He turned over he referred one of his patients that came to ask him, because he was head of law there at Emory, and President Carter became over law later. But anyway, Gene Srokerman had gone to Jonas Robichaud, doctor, and he referred her to my attorney, Gene Kaiser, who was a former Fulton County district attorney. He was my attorney, and he said he was going to give me a file, but they were gone. That the police come in. Now remember, this was Fulton County, Atlanta, where he was the district attorney. And they took his files, all but the deposition. And I wonder what that... Anyway, in the deposition, it told about Gene Srokerman. And she was suing a doctor. He was Jewish. I can't remember his name. Excuse me, people get offended when I say Jewish. I was the most... never prejudiced, but I got thrown out there and found out about what happened to me, and that doesn't make me prejudiced. It makes me aware that humans can come in all sizes and races, that can be mean and horrible, and it's not okay what was done to me, and the Jews were a big part of it. Anyway, my kidnapping and what was done to my father, the Illuminati, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers. Then you got the good Uncle George, the illegal George VI, her father, and she's illegal. The whole brood is, and they know all about it. My mom, who she is, about what they did to my father, about this woman marrying a double. I don't know how many doubles there was. So they all knew about it, and they knew about my mom. So where am I here? This is 39 when I was born, kidnapped in 41. This is Uncle George with Roosevelt. His sons were part of all this. They continued to hobnob with the double that married Simpson and became the governor of the Bahamas. And you should see what went on there. There was a lot of people thought this was my father. There was a lot that knew better. And this was if you want to call people, this was the citizens of Great Britain, the true grit of Great Britain, all right? My mom was called a commoner. I don't know, they've called me every name in the book, and I'm the kidnapped. I'm the real monarch, and I'm not going to go through this again. If it happens, if this woman is ever jailed, and the whole brood of them, handcuffed, hauled off. I'm talking about all of them. They're all a bunch of crooks, traitors. And now then, where am I going with it? Somebody will make something out of this. What I wanted to say here was, Last night I was listening to Coast to Coast, and they mentioned JFK, and his father was appointed ambassador. I hope this will go up now. I turned it around. To Great Britain, the U.S. ambassador to England, 36 till they kicked him out in 46. Okay, his son was JFK. JFK flew in there in 39, the year I was born. He flew in many times. He even went before Parliament and spoke a couple of times. Why? Has anybody asked, why is this going on? Okay, he could just go as he pleased. And his father, he stayed there at the embassy, and he was the one that helped in my kidnapping. And now I'm going to what they said last night. They mentioned the guest host, or the guest on Coast to Coast, mentioned something about JFK being Knights of Columbus. Okay, that he was the only president that had been. That's Catholic. But you have to look at it and go back and Google who all in your high up government, I'm talking about your throughout your upper crust of the government. And then you can go into the states if you want to, and it would shock you how many are high ups in the Knights of Columbus. And whether it must be a little touch of Freemasons and Illuminati. Anyway, I thought that was quite interesting. There was some Jeb Bush of all things. I guess somebody'd call me a liar, and all my being put around in the horror that happened to me. I was in Tampa Hilton. I put this up way back. So I haven't just today come up with anything and put it up to. Jeb Bush is the brother of George Bush and his father. And George, I don't know, maybe they tried to save my life. I don't know, I'm just telling you what I know. The elder Bush was CIA director before he became president. And you get into the Hinckley shooting, which I told everybody back then it was mind control. I paid a heavy price for going to D.C. and going to Ronald Reagan, and who was president, and going to, I didn't go to him, I went to the executive mailroom, and guess who came out? You have to sign this big old book to leave anything. It had a cover on it from the FBI that I'd gotten. June the 23rd of 79, ongoing investigation, national security involved. I put it on the front so they would take note, you know. I also had a copy of where my book was almost accepted by Revell Publishers. And I had the book in there and some other documents. Well, you don't want to know what happened to me en route and what happened to me after then. But it was also about Hinckley. John Hinckley Jr. was programmed. Reagan had a, what do you call it, to keep him from being shot, bulletproof vest. Although I guess it did, who can tell anymore. Anyway, it gets into a mess. I want to mention something, though, that at that time I knew a good bit, had found out a good bit. Ronald Reagan mentioned about the controllers, and he didn't mean airline controllers. Okay, you can make what you want to of that. Now I'm going to go back to Larry Flint. I'm going to show this again. That was April the 6th of 84. Excuse me, I put my nose up there. But it's really strange how my road would lead me to places like that. Like, I didn't finish that about Jeb Bush. When I was in Tampa, Florida, and I was sales secretary, and that was the big hotel back then, and they make a lot of their money from having dinners and luncheons and all this football players' conferences and things. But the manager of the whole hotel was John Bristol, and Maisie was the secretary. Then I was sales secretary. Now then, Maisie I'll look and see if this has got time on it. Maisie, and I believe John Bristol was on it. They had a big picture up there as you go in the office, and it was they were telling about, and they had some newspaper clippings about Jimmy Carter, who was president at the time, and them going having the DNA drug enforcement. Okay, and I can't remember, but they weren't kissing Jimmy Carter inappropriate. I don't mean to, I always thought that Jimmy Carter was the only decent president they ever had. And I still believe he's a good man. But I understand since then that once he got in, he sold out to the Illuminati. And that's all I'm going to put. But that's when Jeb Bush was governor of Florida, and Martinez was the mayor, and later he became the governor, and then the drug czar of all things under the Clinton, wasn't it Clinton administration? I'm trying to think. Was that Clinton? Oh, no, under the Bush. The Clinton was Lee Brown, who was in Atlanta when I was doing the book. And as far as I know, he was good. He became mayor of Houston several times. Well, a couple times. And commissioner, police commissioner, just like he was in Atlanta during the Wayne Williams. I'm not going to get into the Wayne Williams because that's a part of this whole thing in mind control. But I wanted to focus on Martinez. His daughter, Jennifer, was kidnapped while the one night I went through there, November the 16th of 82. And now then, you can't Google it and find her. She was on the milk cartons. I think she was the first one on the milk cartons of lost, kidnapped children. Okay, she was returned, and it was never told. I know it was true. Who told me? She was returned to Fort Harrison in Clearwater. They had a place there, the Rodriguez, the Gonzalez, and the Martinez. Now the Martinez goes on, and so I was led into finding out stuff and telling it, and my goodness, I've told enough about the Clintons. All you have to do is go and Google the Clintons, and you'll hear not just the, now I've forgotten his name, who was found in the Park Service owns all that, or around the White House. Fritz Smith, what was his, oh gosh, no. Well, anyway, the gentleman, Vince Foster, was the White House counsel. Well, there's been different stories about what happened to him, but he was killed deliberately. I guess he knew too much, but all you have to, and he was placed out there. But all you have to do is Google the Clinton administration back to Arkansas, and there's about 86 people that were murdered. Or they were murdered. Some of it they listed were under odd circumstances. So heaven forbid. Anyway, where did I get to? That was Jeb Bush was part of the Knights of Columbus, and now I want to get to this, and I probably won't get to tell much of it. The more I go back and I'm able to find out about really what happened to my father and to my mom, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, and they were married and alive, and they always were married. My mother was a school teacher, and my father, they didn't like him because he wouldn't follow the Illuminati orders. And this gets into the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now then, somebody did a nasty on one of my videos. Well, oh fella, you can go and Google, just as I did, and see. You don't have to admit they did it to my father. They did. That's there too. But the Archbishop was part of the takedown of my father. It was a huge plot by the Illuminati to take him down. And they did, with lies and character assassination. Then they kidnapped me and brought me over, and my life's been hell in trying to tell this and having people call me names and everything because I give a rat's about people. And I thought that people like James Holmes, who's on death row, I guess, or he's in a mental hospital being treated for a non-existent illness. It was mind control. And those psychotic drugs, I'm sure, aren't fun to take. So ye who say, call me names, better go get on your meds, since I have lived where most of men or women I've survived, and I don't think any of you could have survived through it. So let's test your mental ability before you start questioning mine. By the way, I'm on high blood pressure medicine. I think it's a 15 milligram. I take something for arthritis inflammation, and I take vitamins. And I take, because of all the crap I've gone through, a pill for vertigo once in a while. Now, kiss my grits, fella. Well, it was more than one. It was on the videos, the nasty, nasty remarks. But I wanted to put this up. I keep turning it around. I Googled last night because they were talking, well, okay. I had already, there's YouTube's on this, the plot to take down King Edward VIII. There's enough mixed in there that if you care, you could see where I'm coming from on part of it. And I was told by the British, and I was at the British Embassy twice. It goes so high, the power, look at what's happened to Great Britain, and etc. But anyway, I scribbled this down. Lang, it was the Archbishop. I've forgotten his first name. I'll see it in a minute. But you can Google him, 1936, Archbishop. Lang stated problems with the new king who was behaving erratically. Can you believe this? All you have to do, this is what I've been saying, what they're attaching to Donald Trump, that he's erratic, that he's, you start questioning their mental stability. And, you got it right then. There you go. And you got this woman, I don't think anybody's, all she's done is flounce around and flaunt it. And she's a criminal, a traitor. There's so many crimes she's committed, and she's still doing it, and everybody loves her. There you go, Elizabeth. Lizzie Borden. Anyway, let's see if I can read my own writing. Lang decided King Edward VIII had to go. Immoral behavior. He was married to my mom. He loved his country. None of that. It was character assassination. It was lies. Immoral behavior. Look at yourself wherever you are, Archbishop. And that goes for the Illuminati and George VI, who's dead. And quite frankly, I hope God dealt with him. And I'm sure everybody's going to hate me. What did I do? I was born. I'm the good guy. I didn't do this. It was done to my children, my father and mother, my country, and it's still going on. Now, if I can pick up here, see if you can put together stuff that when you're hardly able to live. Cosmo Lang. And I don't care. He's an archbishop. Oh, he's church. Oh, he opposed King Edward VIII marrying Wallis. Well, my dad never married Wallis, and he knew it. My father was in and out. They knew each other and all this. And he had to have known about my mom. By the way, the Golden Globe last night gave the Best Actor Award to Gary Oldman. I believe I'm correct. He played Sir Winston Churchill in The Darkest Hours. It portrays Churchill as a good guy. He burned the Windsor Files. He helped take down my father. He hobnobbed and stayed in the White House with the Roosevelts. He was part of the takedown of my father and therefore Great Britain, trying to take Great Britain down in my kidnapping. So there you go. But he's portrayed last night in the Golden Globes in that movie as a good guy. Okay, 2 days after King Edward resigned,